We're live.
What is going on, people? Welcome to the Invincible podcast, the greatest podcast in the universe. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and today I'm joined by the returning Miss Dana Abercrombie.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Richard Bailey Jr.
What's up, everybody?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
And of course, Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
All right, we got a stacked house, man. This is the season finale, season 3. Shit is crazy. This might be an extra long episode because not only do we have a lot to say, but we got like more of a longer cast here. But before that, Dana, you weren't with us for a couple of episodes. So before we move on, let's get your thoughts on some of the shenanigans that happened on previous episodes. And you're muted, so we definitely want to hear your thoughts when you're unmuted.
I am muted. Sorry. Yeah. First, I have to start off with that Scott Duvall episode was just heartbreaking. You understood where he came from. And, he wasn't at fault for anything. He just probably he went about it. He tried to do it the correct way. But as you could see that wasn't working. The government had so many excuses like, we don't have laws for this, so it's kind of okay. And they kept giving excuses as, he was trying to fight his dad, so it's all right. But hundreds of people died. And it just so happened that it happened to be his sister and his niece. And that was completely heartbreaking. And to see that, what's his name? Oh my God, the main one, Mark. Him kind of go through that process of understanding like, hey, is it really my fault? Did I do this? That was a really nice way that they humanized the character, because had it been, say, his dad, screw them, haha, you're all dead. So I liked how they put that balance, and Eve was like, it's not your fault. This is what happens. But at the same time, I just really loved how they did that. And then, at the end, it was just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, where he ended up losing his own babies.
Yep.
But that's when you make the argument of whether that was his own fault, because he decided to call out Invincible. So I loved the blurry line of what it is to be a superhero and the people that are affected by that. And so many times we've seen so much destruction done in these other movies or TV shows, and no one is being held accountable. I think maybe-ish the only thing that we've really gotten, now I'm not deep into the comics of anything, but, movie-wise, we may have gotten that when it came to Avengers with that whole Sokovia thing with the bomb exploding.
Civil War, yeah.
The Civil War, Civil War. But I just wish that they would have went deeper with that. And then there was the show Perilous, but that was kind of like a comedy. So that right there was just, I loved how they did that. In the next episode, I love the fact that Oliver has these extremely mixed feelings about his dad, and it kind of, to me, felt like it brought Oliver and Mark closer, because they do know their father as someone who's loving, and their mother did love them, and that environment was kind of safe and protected. But to know that there is another side of their father that they didn't see, and now that they saw, how do you juggle those emotions? So I loved how they did that, and they had that conversation of like, he's bad, but he's really not bad, and they both kind of struggled. And you look at Mark knew his father longer than Oliver, because just of the years, the age, and, he had this feeling, but he had no one really to go to. Amber was there, but she wasn't really there. Amber didn't know. So it was really like Eve and the mom, but it's nice that Oliver has that support system within Mark where he can go to. And I really did love that.
And Dana, one thing to keep in mind, which is interesting, Mark lived with his father longer than Oliver, but Oliver has better memories because he doesn't forget anything. He remembers everything born. So it kind of evens out. And I said this during the podcast. I like the fact that they could both talk about the dad on the equal level. Yeah, Mark had more years, but Oliver has better memories, like full 100% memories, whereas Mark just has normal human memories where you kind of remember the feeling, not the exact instances. So yeah, no, I love that part. That was great. Like they came together that way, But anyway, I just wanted to see if you thought about that. It was like, Oliver remembers everything.
I remember. He said, I can remember everything since I was born.
Yep.
So it was very intense for him. as well. So I do love the fact that you're right. It does make them even. It actually can make him stronger, better, not better, but him
Yeah.
more of a higher level because he can remember every incident, every moment.
Mm-hmm.
While, Mark, that human side, we remember what we think we remember.
Yes.
As opposed to him remembering what actually happened. So, I would, and both of them just kind of just going through it and them being their support system. Another thing that I really liked was Conquest. Oh my God. That fight scene.
Yeah, well, Conquest, we're going to get to that in this episode.
What did you get to?
Yeah, what did you think of the Invincible War? Do you have notes for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. The Invincible War. That was extreme. I loved it. The thing that I love about the show is how they depict the violence and the brutality is just actual violence and brutality about it. Rest in peace, Rex.
Yes.
Because that was, oh my God. I felt really sorry, and it was interesting because you could get attached to a character even though he's kind of like an ass. He's kind of terrible, but he's not, mean or awful. He's just, asshole. So, rest in peace to him. That was terrible what happened, but I absolutely loved that whole sequence of everything. Yeah, and so there was one really quick scene, really quickly, where they showed Amber at the bowling. I think that was Amber at the bowling alley. Yay for maturity, because I expected her to be like, ugh, but I like her. I like her when she's not dating Mark. She's tolerant.
There you go.
So there we go with that. So yeah, that's kind of like everything that I can think of.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that before we move on to this episode, I just got a couple questions for you. So I want to hear your take on it. What did you think of the different Invincibles and how they were all different from one another? Because I said you got to give Steven Yeun props. He was able to play all these characters so differently.
The personality, and even like little bits of the voices were slightly altered. And I really love and appreciate that. And I do love the fact that there were so many different of them because, it's interesting to see how Mark would have grown up, had things been differently. And we get to see that there. And then Mark, here's a weird thing. I'm wondering, and you would know with the comics, does he kind of learn from the other Marks in terms of maybe I should do something differently in my life because that turned out this way with this Mark?
Well,
Or is this more
I'm not
of
going to
I have to
answer.
fight everything?
You know me, Dean. I'm not going to answer this stuff.
Just a generalized question.
I'll just say this. I'll just say this, and you already seen it. He's already changing. Remember, most of this season, he was very regretful for killing Angstrom Levy. He was like, I don't want to be that kind of guy. And then by the end, he was like, I'm just going to kill people. I'm just going to kill people. Fuck this.
But that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
It activated him. And you can argue that, yes, it was the other Marks, but I think it was the totality of everything. Mm-hmm. I think it was also the totality of him losing. He got hold, we'll get to this later, even technically Oliver.
Yep.
Almost. And that, because it was so close to home, as opposed to like, Pookie and them on the street. It completely changed them. And these are people that he loved that is very close. And in a way, this is why I love the fact that they included Scott Duvall. Scott Duvall was not wrong. And you see how both of them changed.
Yeah.
Where Scott tried to do it the right way, and then he took things into his own hand, and you saw Mark trying to do it the right way, and we love the humans, and nothing's going to happen. I have to protect people, but I'm not going to kill anybody, even if you come down here. And that completely switches. And I've waited 4 seasons for this to happen. So yay, but then I also wonder, is this a bit of the Viltrumite coming into him? Or is this more like the human side? So I don't know, but I love it. But that whole episode, amazing.
Awesome. Good stuff. Glad you share your thoughts. You pretty much kind of agreed with what we generally said, which is good. All right, so let's get into it. Final episode of the season, Conquest. They didn't waste any time, bruh. Right there, as soon as you hit play, bam. They're fighting. Very reminiscent of the Omni-Man fight, obviously. Lots of destruction going on. But the difference is, like, Omni-Man wasn't relishing in the fight. He was like, I got to just teach this kid a lesson. Conquest was like, yo, I'm here to have fun, bro. I'm here to have fun. And this dude was having the time of his life, just beating the shit out of Mark and pummeling everything. And the fight, obviously goes through, some phases. So let's get into it. And Dana, since you weren't here for a little bit, what did you think of how things started? So we'll start off with you, like the initial battle.
Well, the official battle, this is what made me wonder if Omni-Man was holding back when I saw Conquest because of the connection to Mark. Omni-Man, I mean, Conquest was like, this, I'm happy. I've never seen someone so happy. And then, by the way, that was Jeffrey D. Morgan who voiced him, right?
Yeah.
He was amazing. Like you couldn't even tell that it was him. And it's technically a Walking Dead reunion, so yeah for them.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love this. It showed that nobody was pulling their punches. It showed that Mark still getting his behind beat. Maybe now in season 4 he'll live up to the name Invincible. That would be nice. But no, I thought it was amazing. I loved every kind of aspect of it, and I love the fact that they had other people there that had to partake in the fight. That shows what happens when you have a Viltrumite at full strength and capacity. And this makes me wonder, it was just one Viltrumite. There are, I think they said like 50 to 100 still left.
It's like 50 left. Yeah.
So even with 50, they can easily still be very destructive.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
just
also
one
on
is
top of
enough.
that,
Yeah.
And then it showed, like, again, we have to go to the people who are affected. Pookie and them on the street. Man's leg was gone. It was completely ripped off. So, it shows the whole totality of things. And it really makes me kind of, like, wonder, will the citizens get sick of this? Because here you go walk into the store, now you don't have a leg. So I'm just wondering. But overall, I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. But they live in a superhero world, so they're kind of used to it. But yeah, that guy who got his leg ripped off, he was one of the lucky ones because he's still alive. Not so much for the other people. But yeah, Rich, what do you think of the initial, instance, the initial battle between the two and Conquest just glorifying in it,
Well, I thought it was phenomenal. We'll give a shout out to everybody on the cast for being extremely patient because I watched this at 3 a.m. Thursday morning as soon as it dropped. Because again, go back to the previous episode, that was when the fight started. So I wasn't waiting until later on Thursday or Friday. Sorry, guys, I couldn't wait. The fight was phenomenal. It was fantastic. To go to what Dana said, yes, the reunion of The Walking Dead. If you know Negan and Glenn, you know what happened to Glenn at the hands of Negan. So this was a fantastic choice as far as bringing him in to voice this character, and fantastic performance by both of them. Excellent lines, acting, everything. But yeah, I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think of the initial part of the battle and how it seemed like, Mark is going to have a problem beating this guy?
Well, I think this whole episode was well paced. It's paced in line with everything we've seen before it. So they didn't waste any time. They didn't need any filler. Like if you hit skip recap, because Amazon recaps every episode at the beginning. So as you hit skip recap, they're just beating the shit out of each other. It was amazing. I was like, yes, thank you. It just gets right into it. Like the whole language of the episode is just him battling Conquest. It's like one of them is going to kill the other one. You know that right from the jump, right? There's no negotiating. There's no nothing. They're just going to talk with their fist, and that's the whole episode. And then I felt bad. You feel bad, like Dana said, for all the people around, because he literally in the episode before that is trying to clean up after the Invincible War. Is trying to help everybody gather together, and now Conquest is causing as much or more damage now, them pummeling each other, than the Invincible War, which is insane.
Yeah. All right. Carlos, what are your thoughts about the initial part of the battle?
I do agree with all of the sentiments that were brought forth. I want to mention, I was expecting Jeffrey Dean Morgan from the jump, but I gotta say he did a good job not sounding as Jeffrey Dean Morgan as he normally does. Yeah. It does come out of parts and parts with the character, but he did a really good job. So shout out to him. I really enjoyed the way that they animated this. They didn't pull any punches, literally and figuratively. And the whole thing with the collateral damage, that's one of the parts of the show that I really appreciate, because they show everything. I mean, this is sort of brought flashbacks to the Omni-Man Invincible fight. This is kind of similar type thing, and it's just more creative ways to bring in collateral damage. So yeah, I really enjoyed this initial part of the fight.
Yeah. And then Oliver obviously showed up during it, but he was just swatted away. We'll get to the Oliver bit in, soon. But when he first,
bug?
Yeah, kind of like a bug. Yeah, yeah. What's up, Dana?
Mute. Okay, I just wanted to quickly say something that I was kind of expecting, because he's getting pummeled to death, that he would use intelligence. So you know how sometimes it's like intelligence versus brute strength, but there was no room for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how much that's how impactful and quick and kind of deadly that fight was. There was no kind of room for that. And I thought that for me made it more realistic.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that
that's
up because Conquest actually mentions that. He's like, you better come up with a strategy or something because this ain't working.
Well, yeah, because remember when he was with the brother, he was like, "Oh, that gave you time to think." He's like, "No, no, not really."
Yeah, no, I'm glad you bring that up. It's a good point. Okay, so we had a little bit of a cutaway from the fight. We see that Cecil doing Cecil things. He's taking the bodies of all the dead Invincibles and trying to make them into Reanimen, but they're not ready yet. And then we had another little scene of Eve waking up. She's apparently been in a coma for a week, after, she almost got killed by one of the Invincibles. And, her dad being the usual asshole. My taxes pay for this, that stuff. And then by the end of it, she decides she's gonna go help. So, what you guys think of that? Like, were you afraid of Eve? Like, yo, you almost got killed by, a Mark. This guy is way stronger, So, yeah, Rich, I'll start off with you. What'd you think of all that little sequence with the Reanimen and Eve and all that?
Yeah, well, I definitely expected Cecil to try to do something to try to make use of the current situation. I think this episode did a very good job of making you feel like somebody can get killed because Conquest is just so deadly and dangerous. We'll get into what happened later when he started fighting Eve and others. But yeah, it's just like they did a very good job making you really be scared. Can Invincible really get out of this situation? Because he got pummeled for most of this fight until the third round. Then that's when he got his payback. But yeah, he just got absolutely devastated. But they did a very good job with the pacing, as Chris said, and then just the carnage and the chaos. This is what I want to see in an animated TV show for adults.
Yeah. What do you think of Eve wanting to get back in the fight after being all fucked up? Because she was still recovering. She wasn't like full strength yet.
Oh, yeah. I knew that was going to happen because, again, this entire season, it was about building her relationship with Mark. The fact that they are a couple, she always had his back, so on and so forth. So I figured as she was probably going to want to get involved, even though it was not recommended for her to get involved.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think of Eve wanting to step up and, Cecil being all shady as usual?
Man, it's hard. Like, I don't know what to think because I know that was coming.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's difficult, but it's played out very, very well that she wants to get back in there, and then she takes advantage of her, matter rearranging powers, like that she could just fly. So she's like, I don't need my leg to get around. And it's like, yeah, but you're worse off than you were in the Invincible fight, and then now you're going to take on this guy. It's it's tension building where you already have a fast-paced scene, and then you're adding another element onto it, which is really good because all the brutality that we're seeing so far doesn't have an emotional connection to Mark. So that's smart that this this element comes in, and now there's an emotional piece at stake, now in this fight. So that's very, very well added in, because Conquest is just murdering people indiscriminately, right? Like plowing him through people, shattering buildings. You can imagine how many people are dying in the background that we don't see, right? But Mark's been through this already, whatever. And like he said, he can't focus on that because he has to fight, right? So he needs emotional stakes. That is where Eve comes in. Now you have the emotional stake in there.
Yeah, that's a good point because obviously when the last time he had a battle of this fight, the emotional stake was the guy he was fighting was his father. You know, he doesn't have that relationship with Conquest, obviously, other than the whole, you know, we're the same race. But yeah, so it was definitely good, and I like the way they depicted it. But yeah, Dana, what do you think of Eve wanting to step up the fight, despite the fact that she's still recovering?
I wanted to jump on what Chris was saying quickly about that. It also gave us, the audience, a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
So that was good as well. So we get to breathe, and then, you know, we have that emotional connection because now we know the brutality of Conquest. Whether or not we know that she is not at 100%. So that means she could get got at any moment as well. You know, but it also shows just the love that they have for each other, where she is literally willing to die for him.
Yep.
So there are all these different elements coming into play. Now, I think that when they teased a little bit of what would have happened at the end, involving with Eve, in terms of how she was able to rearrange atoms. But unless you wasn't really paying attention to that, it added more of like a shock value. Oh, well, she can fly without her legs. So the whole time I'm wondering about her legs. They put that in there, and then of course they trick you with something else. But I liked how that was played out. And I thought that, you know, also adding with the dad, when you know how he was complaining about, oh, you're tax paying dollars and stuff. It shows to me how much that family, not just Mark, but his family means to her and sees her for not just a person, but what her capabilities are. So I love that part. And I love the fact that she came in to help, even though she didn't think about her life at all. And she's still young. I think they're teenagers still.
Yeah, they're still
And
teenagers.
mentally, she's still a teenager. So, you know, that love and passion is, you know, right there, just always powerful at the very beginning. So I like that.
Good stuff. All right, Carlos, what do you think of, you know, Eve wanted to step up, Cecil, shenanigans, all that?
First of all, shout out to the Reanimaniacs bringing back those marks. Yeah, I really enjoyed this scene. I thought when I first saw Eve leaving that hospital, I just thought she's gonna die.
Oh shit!
I got those red flags. You know, I was like, I feel like this is gonna be the twist, because you know, I know you, Tony, you were saying like, oh, this is the stuff that I was waiting for, and I'm like, oh, something's gotta happen. Gotta have something. And I expected to see that, and I want to give shout out to Eve. You guys mentioned earlier in the podcast that Mark and Omni Kid Oliver weren't doing any tactics. Eve was doing a whole bunch of tactics.
Yeah,
like it was like the way she was fighting. It was pretty cool, the way that the dynamic that she brought. Obviously, she isn't as strong enough to fight a Viltrumite, but it was really cool to watch.
Good stuff. All right. And then, you know, we go back to the battle. Conquest, again, having the time of his life, teasing Mark. And he's like, yeah, you got to do something, bro, because this isn't working, man. Like, where's that Viltrumite, power that I'm seeking? But he said even though it was too easy for him, he was still just having the time of his life. And we find out why later on, like when he kind of admits something. Then Oliver comes in there and Conquer's like, okay, you go away now. I'm playing with this kid. I was like, damn, bro. And he punches him once, breaks all his teeth, about to rip him in half, and then, Mark finally comes in. And then as we saw, Cecil steps in, saves Oliver, and, shit gets crazy. So, yeah, what do you guys think of the next phase of this battle? Go ahead, Carlos. You could go next because shit starts getting crazy now.
Oh yeah, you mentioned the part that was the most gruesome to me. That was the Oliver part when he was stretching him out, and he was giving every single detail of like what's going for. First it was the muscles, and then this, and then this, and this. I'm like, damn, it's like a black hole. Like, how it stretches spaghettifies people. That was pretty dark. I was like, man, he's still a kid. Yeah, I really enjoyed that scene as well. As well, the one with Eve. Yeah.
Also, I forgot to say this right now, because remember, this is the first part where Conquest is trying to egg Mark on, and he was like, yeah, and he says, and remember, he doesn't know this. He's probably lying. He's like, oh yeah, they executed your father. He's dead. That was to get him going.
Yeah, he's trying to egg him on to get him to fight for real. Because he does, for some reason. Mark just never fights 100% because he's always holding back, and
Yeah.
obviously that changes at the end of the episode. But yeah, he's definitely egging him on because he has no clue that Omni-Man is still alive.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think this part of the battle, especially with Oliver and all that?
Well, it's great because it raises the volume on everything that's happening. So Eve is entered in, right, for emotional stakes, but then Oliver comes in and two things happen. So the stakes go higher, and we know that in a lot of media, right, kids are safe, right? Doesn't matter if it's an American Godzilla movie or whatever. Children are always safe, right? They're not going to get stepped on or crushed by a bullet. No, this throws that right out the window. Him, like Carlos said, he's describing as he's stretching Oliver, like your bones and muscles, and then if you get through that, your skin's going to rip off. Like he's just torturing him, right? And he wants to kill him. So kids are not safe in this world. No one is safe, right? So that sets that expectation, and then when we get further and there's more stuff with children, but that it's fantastic. Those are the only emotional cards you can play with him are his children, and Conquest doesn't know him, so he can't like threaten his mother, right? Angstrom Lever already did that, but Conquest doesn't know him. They don't know each other, so he just knows that he doesn't even know who they are, right? They're just interfering with his fun, so he's just trying to kill them. But it means something to Mark. And yeah, he is the only villain so far that is taunting Mark in a way to make him fight harder. Everybody who taunts Mark wants him to lose, right?
Yeah.
So they fuck with him so that he gets off his game. Conquest wants the exact opposite. He wants the 100% game, right? So he can have a challenge, which is very interesting.
Yeah. One quick thing that you mentioned. Oh, go ahead, Carlos. Go ahead, bro.
I do want to mention something real quick. When Oliver leaves the house, it seems like the mom was okay with it. Sort of, she gave in. Essentially, is like, yeah, this is what you guys do. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And also another thing that was pretty interesting. Our good old friend Paul. He was pretty easily leave him go to his own doom. So I'm still keeping my eye on that real estate broker. He's got something. He's got something coming, man.
Go ahead, Dana. I already see you like.
No, the thing with Paul is like he's too nice. That's my problem. So I don't trust him. He's a
Okay, so
little
you and
too
Carlos
nice.
are
He's too understanding. So it's like my red
Exactly.
flags are flagging. Like I don't. This is too weird. Oh, I want to be the right person. No, I don't like it. I don't trust it. A little too hard. And then look at this. The mom is vulnerable. She's always been vulnerable. Period. But she's extra vulnerable. She has her 2 kids are out there, right? They're fighting. She knows that they could die, but she's accepted, hey, this is what they do. Every time they leave the house, there could be danger. Even when she fled. She said, don't worry, I'm safe. I'm going to flee.
Yeah.
She knows that she's in danger. Everything is about danger. And her accepting that fate, she is extremely vulnerable. And here comes in Paul. Well, I just don't know what I'm going to, maybe they don't like me. And maybe they're this. And oh dear, trying to make it, you notice he makes it about him so that she can go and say, oh, don't worry. Everything will be fine. I don't like him. I don't trust him. But going with that fight, I will say this, Oliver should have died. I'm sorry. But once you bring a kid in, he is not at 100% yet because he's a kid.
Yeah.
And I felt if you want to really raise the stakes, he should have died. What better way emotionally? You killed a kid. You killed his brother. All of that. And, it started off, being angry at the dad and look with this other kid and this came in and you ended up forming this relationship and this bond. And Oliver really loves him. It's nothing that's malicious or anything, which was interesting because they juxtapositioned this with the alternate version of Mark, and I think that was Oliver. I'm not sure, but they were fighting. So it's interesting to see this like really love and connection that they have with each other. He should have died. That would have really put a whole emotional moment in the show. But he didn't. Whatever. He was really injured. Whatever. And he was taken away by Cecil. I don't trust Cecil in terms of I don't know what he's really gonna do. I'm still a little iffy on him, even though he's helping. But his little inventions, I don't
Well,
know what's gonna
you
happen right now.
you,
Yep.
Go ahead,
you
Mark.
But
bring up a,
yeah,
you bring up a
should
good
I?
point with Cecil, because the whole thing, Cecil came in real quick for Oliver, but when Eve was down, like he didn't show up. Where was Cecil then? Did he know something we
No,
didn't?
that
This is just my little headcanon because I don't. Basically, I think he was like, okay, I got to go around and gather all these guys. Remember, at the end, he shows up after the Eve battle or that part with the whole crew, so maybe he was gathering stuff. But Dana, since you bring it up, I wanted to bring this up because this is what I like about Cecil. Again, he has that gray line, right? This is what we said last week, for example. He said he appreciates that Mark fights back, that he doesn't just take him at his word for anything. He likes that about Mark. He doesn't want Mark to just be a tool that just listens. He wants pushback. And in this battle, what was the first thing that Cecil did? The first thing he goes, call his mom, tell him he's okay. So that lets Cecil, this season plays him up so well. Like, remember that we had that episode with the origin story of Cecil, how he came, like, again, you see that it's like, yeah, he's fucking creating Invincible men in the background, but he still wants to make sure this kid is okay and that his mom knows he's fine. So, got
But
that
is he
balance
preparing
there.
him to push back at something that could be greater? Because I want you to push back. I want you to push back. What happens if he presents him with something? And it just seems to me, I feel that they might clash. You can argue and say he's making him push back. He's not a yes man. Wants him to have his own thoughts and ideas and everything. But at the same time, there's something that's a little bit too sneaky about Cecil.
Well, here's
Yeah.
the thing.
That
We
just
we we already know Cecil's motivations through this whole season, like from his origin story up
Yeah.
until his conversation with Mark in the White Room. We know that he poses the 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 complexity of their relationship, right? He says either you're the good guy or you're the guy who saves the world, and you can't be both, right? So Cecil does what he has to do to safeguard the world, right? So creating the Reanimen, the little device he had with the sound that disables Invincible, all that stuff, like everything he does is he has to think about the greater good before anything else. And if that makes him the bad guy, then that's what he has to do. So there's nothing really sneaky about it. We know his motivations. We know what he has to do. And relationships have to be elastic, right? He cannot have complete authority over Mark, and he knows he can't have complete loyalty from any one person. That's why he allows the pushback, right? You have to give people some elasticity, but pull them back into the fold, right? So that's what he's doing. He's playing it smart. He cannot just demand absolute confidence and absolute obedience, right? Yeah, he can't expect that. He has to give him leeway, right? And also he's young, so he understands all that stuff. So Cecil's very smart about his relationship with Mark and everyone else. Donald, he has the same issues with even him, but he knows how to pull people back into the fold because that's what he has to do to win, right? So
Yeah.
So it's not anything sneaky, or does he have any third motivations? No, his motivations were laid out all in this season. We know exactly what he wants, right? He's doing his job.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not really a question of Cecil's motivations aren't in question. His methods are in the question.
Oh, sure.
The way he does shit. That's what makes it like, okay, this guy is a good guy, but he's doing fucked up shit. But in his own words, you can either be the good guy or you can save the world. Can't be both. Again, the dynamic is so good.
Cecil is Ozymandias.
Oh shoot.
Eve is Dr. Manhattan Phoenix.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Good shout out to good comic book call out there. That's good. All right, so let's get into the final part of the battle, bro. The third act. This was, and I read an interview with Robert Kirkman right after this episode aired. This part right here, the beach slaughter, was a deliberate callback to the Omni-Man fight, where they're plowing through, people getting killed, and Chris, like you said, even children. You saw that one kid, bro, his fucking arm got ripped off. Like, this shit is real right now. They didn't say exactly where they ended up, but it's got to be Mediterranean because they ended up in some kind of like Italian looking kind of place in the end, but brutal as fuck. Mark's just getting pummeled, and he keeps showing these signs of like, I'm stepping up, but then like, Conquest shuts him down. Eve shows up, and that sequence was great. You know, she armors up like a Power Ranger and shit. She's doing tactics. She's even like compressing the air around him. That was really good. But obviously, 2 hits. That's all it took for Conquest with 2 hits. Breaks her fucking jaw, stabs her right through the gut, you know, Dragon Ball Z style. And that's what finally gets Mark to, you know, really go all out and go crazy. But even that wasn't enough, you know, because like you guys mentioned already, Mark at the end always holds back. But then, you know, like Carlos already mentioned, we had the Phoenix moment. Eve comes back, fucking rips Conquest apart, which is really good. And that allows Mark to get in there and just fucking kill him. And this time he didn't hold back. Obviously, if you never watched The Walking Dead, you didn't know the characters, you don't know the circumstances, but very ironic, right? Because remember, Negan bashed in, Glenn's head. Now it was ironic that Invincible, who plays, Stephen Young, bashed in fucking Conquest's head. Great stuff, man.
With the head.
With the head, So, yeah, what'd you guys think of, like, the final act? Because this shit is crazy. Again, like I was telling you guys, ever since we started this podcast, I want to talk about these 2 specific incidents, the Invincible War and the Conquest battle, because they were back, just like in the comics, it was back to back. You get no fucking breathing space. So I'm getting too hyped right now, bro. Dana, stop me.
I was gonna send you a text in all caps, screaming like, "Why didn't you tell me this happens?"
No, you gotta experience it. You gotta experience it.
I was so upset that I'm like, "Oh my God, it happened! Somebody actually died that was close to Mark." And it was so, to me at that moment, it was so powerful when he, not only the hit to the face, because I'm like, okay, she's fine. It's just the face. It's a dislocated jaw. Half of her face is missing, but she can live. But once he punched her through the stomach, and you saw as she's falling, the intestines and the liver and the spleen and the ovaries just, falling down, clearly out. I'm like, oh my God, she's dead. I don't think she can come back to this. But then I'm like, but it's Adam, and then Adams, they can rearrange themselves. But it's like, no, Dana, she's dead. She wasn't able to do that before he punched her. So I'm like, oh, she's dead. So it was this huge emotion of me trying to understand that she's dead, and then now realizing that this was a person that was really close to Mark. This completely changes the dynamic for season 4 and how this fight can go. It can go either one way. He's too broken up by this, or he's going to fight back. And the whole part for me was to him to finally be at 100% and to stop holding his punches and to be the Viltrumite that he was meant to be in terms of killing this dude. So I thought that moment would have been so powerful. My thing is, I wish he stayed dead.
Dana, I'm noticing a pattern with you. You wanted Oliver to die. You wanted Eve to die. You don't like Mark at all, do you? You want him to suffer.
I love Mark. That's the problem. I love him so much that the people around him have to die so he can be what he's meant to be, which is a strong person who doesn't hold back and is really ready to, fight the Viltrumites. He's lost everyone. Killing his mom, that's cute. That's nice. Okay. But Eve and Oliver, a child and his girlfriend, amazing. But she popped back up, and like a phoenix is again, she rised up from the ashes. And I was excited, but also disappointed. So there were a lot of different emotions that ran through me, because it's like, yes, she made it. She's all right. And then she was the one who destroyed him. But that was also another problem that I had. This was Mark's battle. And I really wish that it was Mark who was able to do this 100%, and he was responsible for every hit and every punch and everything, and not Eve. Because now what does that mean? And coming into the next season, is she going to now be able to literally fight every battle for him and just win because of her strength?
There's an asterisk on that. We're going to talk about that. Okay. There's a little asterisk on that. If you caught it, Eve is, we'll get to it, but that may not be the case. She's not the get out of.
That was my immediate reaction to watching that scene. And that was just, to me, just how the different emotions that I went through with that scene. Yeah. So it was like, oh, okay, she's fine. And then not only is she fine, she's back to 100%. It seemed like asterisk, but still 100% for that moment in that scene.
Yeah.
And then she's giving an explanation as to how she was able to do it. I was like, oh, man, I was disappointed. But yay for Mark. He got her back.
Yeah, and remember, he deliberately killed. He didn't hold back anymore. That was done.
But it took her dying.
Yeah.
But what happened if it was both of them? That'd been amazing.
All right, Carlos, get in here. What do you think of the end of the battle?
I do have a quick question. Something that we referenced earlier. So in the comics, did Mark kill him the same way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was just a coincidence. I thought maybe like they did like a nod to the.
No, there's 2 pages of headbutting. There's literal panels of just repeated him headbutting him to death.
Yeah. Just in general, and Chris, you could correct me on this. This battle went exactly the way it did in the comic. I don't remember. There's no real difference.
The only one difference was when they're going across the ocean and he's fucking with him, like look behind you and all that stuff, and he's pushing his head in the water. He plowed through a naval carrier, killed everyone on that ship before they hit the beach, right? They didn't do that in here. It's not a big deal. I mean, there's so much freaking death. He didn't need an extra ship of people dying, but that was in the comic.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right. Anyway, Carlos, continue.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, the whole thing with Eve, I actually didn't expect it. I expected her to die. I didn't expect her to rise back from the ashes like a phoenix. So that was pretty surprising. I'm looking forward to the nod that you're mentioning, Tony, about the get out of jail free card with Eve in the future. I'm just curious to. I wanted to mention a point Dana mentioned with the Mark win. I feel like Mark never beats anyone by himself.
No, he doesn't.
Like that's kind of his shtick is he really just gets messed up by everyone, and it's like the constant theme. But we'll see if he progresses. I feel like there's going to be a competition between him and Oliver to see who's the Gohan to the Goku in that relationship for that family.
Yeah, Carlos, real quick, you're not wrong about Mark always needing help, but now his mentality is different. Now he's like, you fuck with my family, you're dying, bro. So that's different.
Well, and that's going to lead him more towards, and I'm guessing this has sort of been our telegraph, but this is sort of leaning more towards him going to the dark side, because that's sort of more Viltrumite than I guess than he would want to be, or maybe I'm wrong.
We shall see. Rich, thoughts? Battle.
First and foremost, before I get to that, I did not comment on the Oliver fight.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say this. I thought that was an excellent bookend to the entire season for the character, because from the moment that Oliver, from the start of the season, he wanted to fight. He was always anxious to go out there and fight. He got warned multiple times by Mark and by his mom, probably shouldn't do this. So for him to go into that fight and get absolutely obliterated by Conquest, fantastic. And by the way, to go to the point that Dana said, I personally do think that Oliver is going to die at some point in this show. Because the character, again, he is very anxious. He's going to come back ready to fight. He's going to have that same mentality where he's always going to come back ready to fight. But I kind of feel like something like that needs to happen for Mark to progress as a character even further. So I would not be surprised if Oliver does get killed at some point. So I just want to make that comment.
You're Rich.
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
That trauma that Oliver went through, I feel like that's something that it would take him years to get over it, right? Too bad that takes only like 2 weeks for him to.
Yes, you're right. We'll see what happens.
Go ahead, Dana. You're muted. Go ahead,
that
Dana.
was my issue. Everything is just like, oh, I'm dead, I'm broken, my body, and then like 2 seconds later, hey, how you doing? With both of them. And I couldn't stand. You saw him when he was in that recovery bed. The teeth are all there. The body's back to normal.
Yeah, remember they're Viltrumites. They are Viltrumites.
They are Viltrumites, but just can we just maybe 2 days, 3 days? Let's think about our actions. And then now I'm wondering this though, with Mark's new mentality, how does that trickle down to Oliver? Is he going to follow that same path as well? because he looks up to him, and I think he mimics him at
Well,
times.
remember what Mark said at the end. We'll get to this a little bit later. Mark said, Oliver, you were right. Remember, Oliver from the jump was like, well, you got to kill villains, bro. You keep having these problems because you keep letting these motherfuckers live. So it's really more of Mark adopting Oliver's mentality.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering now, because remember he kept stopping Oliver along the way.
Yeah.
So with both of them at their full strength and no one really there to stop them, maybe like mom was gonna be like, hey, let's not probably do that all the time.
Yeah.
They don't really have anyone to listen to. So now I'm wondering, is this more of the mimic of what we've seen when it came to the other version of Oliver and Mark together? Could it lead more towards that way?
Yeah, you mean
I
the
don't
other
know,
Marks.
and you're not going to give answers.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil. You know that. I'm not Adam, you know. By the
You're
way,
not Adam or Eve.
yeah, by the way, quick thing for you guys to listen to some of our other podcasts on the Koalition. Adam likes to spoil things. He almost spoiled this fucking episode during Throwdown. They're like, bro, shut up. Because he read the books. Like Carlos cut off, was like, la 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 la. That's behind the scenes stuff. It's hilarious. Like, oh, in the comics, it was like this. Like, shut up.
Oh, yeah, you could tell right away when Adam's about to spoil something. I got those trigger warnings set up in my brain.
Yeah. What's up, Rich? And then we'll go to you, Chris.
Yeah. So to get to the fight itself, I thought it was phenomenal. Like I said, I watched this episode as soon as it aired at 3 a.m. And I've been waiting to talk about this. I've just been waiting for us to get together and do this show. This was a fantastic episode. This fight was exactly how it needed to be. And I'm going to say a couple of other quick things. The Adam and Eve stuff was very, very well done, because for the entirety of, if you guys recall, when Invincible was on a break, they had this one episode about Adam Eve to talk about her origin story. So they told you how important this character is to the Invincible storyline. So she definitely could have died in this episode, and then that would have been like, okay, well, but the way they played it for her to come back, I thought that was fantastic. And obviously it makes you wonder, if you never read the comics, are there any other secrets that she is keeping from Mark that we're going to find out about in the future. So I look forward to seeing where that goes. And again, to go to the point that you guys made, the carnage and chaos, all the people getting killed, massacred, absolutely devastating. But there is one question that I do want to pose to Tony and Chris, because this is very important. All right. I saw online a lot of people talking about the fact they had the monologue between Conquest and Mark where he tells him, I'm alone. I do this because no one, he goes into this monologue about why he's doing what he does. I heard that is not in the comics, and they added that specifically to the show. So Tony and Chris, can you confirm that, or is that also mentioned in the comics?
I'm going to kind of rely on you, Chris, for this one, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the fight at all. When he whispers in his ear that no one, I don't have any friends and they're afraid of me. Yeah, that wasn't in the comic. Yeah.
And I do want to bring this up again from that same interview with Robert Kirkman. He says that in the comic, he didn't have enough of a chance to really build up Conquest. So he's like, I now have that opportunity in the show. So that could have been related to that. But no, thank you, Chris, because I was like, I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
It was still in line with the character, because remember, Robert Kirkman wrote this, but yeah, very interesting. What's up, Dana?
I just wanted to say how much I loved that monologue, and it brought so much to this character, where easily it could have been that one-dimensional person that comes in and here's the fight of the week, but they didn't do that. They made him fully dimensional, and even though I don't like so much of you just monologuing everything, it worked in this sequence. And I love the fact that he's saying that he's alone, he has nobody, and I was wondering, it made me wonder, will we get I know it's not in the comics. Oh, do we get a little bit more of understanding his backstory in the comic, at least?
You didn't,
not on the show?
In the comic, you didn't really get anything. He says the Viltrumite likes to kill shit, But the show, you never know. They may add some, because they added this sequence, and it kind of slightly answered a question I always had from the books, because they never answered it. I was like, Hold up. Every Viltrumite has a proper name, except for this guy. He's called Conquest. This is a badass dude. And now you kind of know why. It's like even other Viltrumites are like, yeah, you go over there, bro. You're a little too much for us. Too much for them. These fucking murderers, you know? So let you know how psychotic he is.
But it shows that lack of identity.
Yeah.
He doesn't have he has literally no identity.
Yeah.
He's alone. He doesn't have a name. And I'm wondering, is it more because, he was outcast by others? Or was that just how he was born? He was like, I'm going to just kill everybody and everything. But then again, when he was saying, I'm alone, and he's thinking about that, I kind of wondered, like, did he not want to be alone? Like, I started to feel a little bit sad.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
That's how good for me the writing was. Because I'm not supposed to feel sad for him. I'm not supposed to want to know what his backstory is like. But I wanted to know. So I just love that they threw in that little line that they could have easily not have put in. But it made the character that much more interesting for me.
Yeah.
So yay to writing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys liked that. It was good. So, Chris, get in here, man. What do you think of the way the battle wrapped up and all the stuff with Conquest?
Oh, yeah, it was perfect. Like everything was well paced. The visuals were great. When Eve showed up and she armored up and she's hitting him with everything, every time but trick, because she fought smart. She knew he if this guy lays a hand on me, I'm dead. You could tell the way she was fighting. Like she was throwing everything she could think of at him, creating big like spike balls and giant platforms to like crush him with and all this shit, putting bubbles around his face, changing the density of the air so he slowed down so she could move. All very, very smart, right? All futile in the end, because once he gets his hands on her and starts pulling off that Power Ranger armor, you know what's coming, right? and then it happens, right? Every part of that fight was brutal. Every piece of dialogue was well placed. I didn't like. We're talking about the monologue where he uses Mark as a confessional for his inner turmoil, and then he ends it with like "take that to your grave," which is like that perfectly seals it. That he doesn't want to change, right? He has these regrets. He dumps it on Mark, and then he's going to kill him. that never comes out ever again. So it was that was a chef's kiss to that whole thing, and then it ends with the most brutal way you could beat down somebody is the repeated headbutts. It crushed his head. And here's the thing, like I said in the comic, this was like two pages of panels repeating of him headbutting him and the sound it makes. But in here it was perfect because you realize Mark only had one good leg left to fight him with. He shattered his left hand punching Conquest's arm, the robot arm. Yes,
that was cool, yeah.
Conquest grabbed his other hand and shattered it while he was punching him. So he has no hands and he only has one leg to stand on, right? So what does he have left? That is, you never see that really in a superhero fight where a hero goes all out. Like they'll usually roll over and somebody else takes over. There's always a convenient thing that comes along, or MacGuffin or some other hero will come in. No, he has no one. Cecil can't come, right? Because he has to gather the Guardians or whatever. So nobody's there for him. Eve is dead. He thinks she's dead. So what does he do? He just bashes his face in with his face. And it's amazing, right? I can't think of any fight that is as brutal or as visceral or as satisfying as this one in comics.
Go ahead, Rich.
A quick question. The blood bubble he turns into a heart. Is that in the comics?
No, that wasn't in there. No.
That was, again, man, that shows you how chaotic this guy was. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, the only other brutal fights that measure up to this are in Invincible. In comics don't really get this crazy.
No. I mean, even think about Superman Doomsday. That's when you really see Superman bleed, right? Like that was also a knockout, drag out, multi-issue fight with them, and that's as brutal as DC got, and that doesn't even come close to this. Not even close. And Superman died in that fight.
Yeah, he died. Yeah, they both died, but that was PG. The only I want to bring, and I'm pretty sure Robert Kirkman didn't have this in mind, but the way this ended kind of reminded me of Goku and Piccolo's very first fight. Piccolo broke both of Goku's legs, broke his arms. Goku couldn't do shit. And Goku's like, I got one more trick. I learned how to fly. Flies right at him, headbutts him, and ends the fight. You know, but the same thing with Invincible. It's like, he got nothing left, but I still got this. You know? That was so good. So good. Well done. Just like the books. It even captured the way the comic, you know, his old bashed up face and shit, you know? And then obviously at the end, you know, Cecil shows up with the crew. He's like, all right, ready to fight. Oh, okay. You guys took care of this, you know? So yeah. So then after that, obviously we get, it's crazy because when that part ended, I was like, it's in the episode over. I checked, it's 15 minutes. I'm like, damn, bro. So we're not over yet. So now we kind of get into the post-mortem part. Mark's recovering, and he kind of still kind of feels bad about the way shit went down, you know. And this is where you learn about Eve, you know, where she said that when she was in the womb, they had already put some like mental blockers on. Because I always wonder, because I kind of forgot this. I'm like, why isn't she able to manipulate living matter? She is now, but that mental block was broken because of the trauma and everything. So she kind of powered up. But obviously, again, but an asterisk on it. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We had a quick scene of Cecil going to Sinclair, like, get these fucking Reanimen ready, bro. This shit is serious right now. You know? And then we also had another little quick scene of, you know, Debbie and Carlos's favorite character, Paul, visiting. And I want to touch on this scene. Actually, you know what? Let's get to the Mark recovering Eve thing, because I want to touch on something Debbie said, which I felt was very interesting. But yeah, what do you guys think of learning about how Eve's powers kind of work?
Yeah, I'm thinking if she doesn't have that mental block, is she the most powerful being in the universe?
Technically, she should be, right? Manipulate matter, atoms. She should be, but again, it's a little bit of something there, you know.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see, because I don't fully remember her backstory, so I don't know how they knew that she was born with powers and stuff like that. I always forget. So yeah, that'd be interesting to see, like, if they do a backstory of that, just to see how they knew she was that powerful from the get-go.
Yeah. But yeah, quick little scene there. But then I do want to get to again, you know, Debbie comes to visit Mark and she says that she actually blames herself. She's like, I never should have encouraged you. I never should have done this. Obviously, the whole time you're like, you couldn't have done anything, you know? So Mark is like, listen, it's just the way we are. You got to accept it, you know? And yeah, so Dana, I'll start with you. What do you think of that little sequence of Debbie actually thinking it was her fault?
That was so sweet. And it just to show you how good of a mother that she's not putting the blame at all on anyone else but herself, which is just, she doesn't deserve the blame at all. She couldn't have known. Obviously, hindsight is 50-50 or 20-20 or whatever they say it is. So at that moment, you know, I thought that it was her just really trying to transfer whatever type of guilt or negativity that Mark would have had and place it on her. So I really do love that relationship that they have with each other. And it just kind of shows that even through everything, with the dad, with Oliver, with Mark, all of the situations that they've been through, she's still kind of holding on to this guilt that she has. And I think in that moment with that conversation that Mark had, he said, you know, it's not your fault. It alleviated kind of her struggle and her pain. So maybe now in the next season, she can go forth and have enjoyment and happiness a little bit.
I'm pretty sure
Instead
Paul
of holding
gaslights
on
her
to that
home.
burden.
Paul gaslights her.
Well, yeah, Paul does. That's enough. I can't stand that man. He's manipulative. I don't trust him. I don't like him. There's something about him that's just rotten and seedy and spineless. I can't stand him.
Oh, are you in the Paulverse camp with Carlos?
I think she might be.
Just wait to spring out the
Invincible
Infinity
William
Gauntlet.
Paul.
He's the big
sneaky.
evil.
He's the actual villain of the entire series.
It makes perfect sense. It all fits.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
So I definitely understand where Dana and Carlos are coming from, and if they're in the Paul camp, that's cool. I personally am in the Jerry Springer camp because I want to see what happens when Nolan returns and how confusing that situation is going to be for Paul. He's going to be like, well, wait a second. Uh-oh. That's going to be very interesting. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. And then obviously after that, we kind of alluded to it before. Mark was, with Oliver. Oliver's fine. Remember, he regenerates even faster because, he's always growing. And he tells Oliver, it's like, yeah, you were right, bro. You were right. Like, somebody fucks with my family, I'm killing them. And obviously Oliver, he almost got killed and he's still ready to fight, So what do you guys think about all, the way that went down? Chris, you can start first. Mark's mentality now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's understandable. Like, just looking at the episodes and how everything has played out, everything he's been through, especially just almost losing Eve and Oliver in this one fight, let alone, we know, what's coming up later in this, at the end of this episode, is that he has no choice, right? He didn't finish the job with Angstrom Levy. He came back, and how dangerous the Viltrumites are, even other versions of himself, and now he fought Conquest. It's like he's put in a position where he has to adopt that philosophy, and if he doesn't, everyone he loves is going to die at some point. So you completely understand where he sees, like, it's not like Oliver was 100% right, because the Maulers weren't really a threat to them, right? And they surrendered. So he's somewhat right? So it's like, okay, you can lock it to, if you threaten my family, I'll kill you. All right, that makes sense. It totally makes sense how his feelings on that. But he did mention the Maulers in there. I'm like, they're not really on the level of everything else you fought lately. Not even close. So
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, the Maulers, like, remember, one of them gave up and Oliver still killed him. It's like, okay, we got to scale that back.
And this is Oliver killing them, right? He's not even at full power yet. Like, the Maulers would have no chance if they fought Conquest or Anissa or Omni-Man, right? They have no chance. So it's like they're not on that level.
No, not even close. Go ahead, Rich.
So you see, Chris, what you just said, this is why the people who are fans of the Maulers, they enjoy seeing Oliver get his ass whooped in this episode. So, there you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rich, go ahead, man. What do you think of Mark's new mindset now?
Well, I think it's excellent. It will evolve him further as a character, and you go through everything that Mark has dealt with this entire season, whether it was Powerplex, the return of Angstrom Levy, and now Conquest. Yes, this guy needs to go into. I'm expecting when they come back to season 4, I do expect to see him kill people now. I mean, that's my opinion, especially if it's somebody that is threatening the family or he has to approach things a little bit differently. So it makes me very excited to see what happens next.
We are definitely in a fork in the road in terms of the story, especially for those that haven't read the comics. Because here's the thing. And Tony knows this. This is my biggest issue with classic mainstream American superheroes, is that they don't kill, and they just they always let the bad guy get away and do harm to others. For several more issues of the comic, and for this character, I don't really know Kirkman's work that deep. So
yeah, you watch Walking Dead, so you kind of have an idea.
Shout out to I Am Negan. Yes, indeed. So I don't know if this decision for Mark to quote unquote kill means that it's a good thing or a bad thing. And when I mean that, when I say that, I mean is killing people actually the way to go? Like, is it the way to resolve things, or is it not the way to go and it's going to end up him being the bad guy or the antagonist or whatever? Like that, I feel like it's sort of, that's how it's going to lead to that decision.
I like the fact that you're asking those questions. That's good. Again, socially, this isn't your typical superhero show. Like, if you think it's going one way, it's going to go another, which is great. And Dana, you have any more thoughts on, Mark's new outlook?
I think that was a really great question, because you may have this idea of, I'm going to start going harder, but then what happens are the consequences of that? And who's to say that Oliver was right at that moment? Yes, in hindsight, when you're getting your behind beat by, Conquest and other people, you're going to go, I don't want that anymore. I'm tired of getting my behind beat. So let me go at 100% strict. But who's to say that it could cause more damage? Who does he end up attacking at the end that doesn't need to be at that kind of strength? So that's another thing you have to look out for. And everyone, to me, is still a liability. Mark, he's a liability. The mom, Eve,
You mean
Cecil,
Oliver?
everyone else around him, and
Yeah, Oliver's
Oliver.
a liability. Yeah, Oliver's a liability. I don't know about, yeah, because you said Mark.
So I'm
That's
just
okay.
kind of wondering. Sorry, I meant Oliver, but I'm just kind of wondering. That's great and all, and we've been wanting this, but it can end up costing him everything by going this way. So we'll just have to see. You're not going to say anything, but we'll just have to see what ends up happening, because this could be all for the best or all for the worst.
We shall see. And then we had a quick little sequence of, Mark and Eve going back to their bedroom, about to, get it on. And she uses her powers to take his costume off, right? And then I hope you guys caught that. The cameras panned down, so Mark's costume was melting. Makes you wonder what's up with Eve's powers. So I want to hear specifically the non-comic book. Chris, you and I will shut up during this point. I want to hear what you guys think is happening here, because Mark's costume was melting and it had a little glow around it. Go ahead, Dana. You look very confused.
Confused because I remember that I thought there was that robot that kind of removed the clothes and then folded them right by the bed. And
She did it. She used her powers to take his costume off and fold it.
Oh, okay. And then the costume was kind of like that melting, smoky. Okay. That's interesting to see. I'm interested in how that ends up playing, because that is a hint to what her powers are in the future, and how that ends up working. But I really thought it was like that little eye thing that did that. But yeah, no, that's nice. And I'm wondering if because she didn't even see that it was smoking.
Nope.
So I'm wondering, these powers that she has, that they're unlocked, she does not have full control over at the moment, because it's smoking. So that can be another thing that we should look out for, because what kind of damage that she may think she's helping and ends up causing more damage at the end. So I like that little tiny hint that I didn't really notice at that moment.
Yeah, there you go. Carlos, get in here, because you said, you were kind of worried about Eve becoming a like get out of jail free card, but is she though?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of with that scene is maybe it's related to Conquest in some way, because that's the only other person we've seen Eve sort of disintegrate like that, or I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but treat to a similar fashion. So maybe she reacts differently to Viltrumites. I don't know. I'm honestly, I'm kind of stumped with that one. I have no clue.
Yeah. What about you, Rich? What do you think is going on with Eve's powers? Do you think she's really back to 100%, or is something else going on?
Well, I think the fact that she, I guess you could say, was reborn, that may have some negative consequences later. I do think that the fact that the whole melting thing, personally, I think, yes, it means that when she uses her powers, yes, then it's something that's going to cause some issues. But I also think that may also impact how she is as a person. And dare I say, that may cause issues with the relationship with Mark moving forward. That's just my guess. Again, I don't know anything. I haven't read the comics. But let me just say this. Shout out to Mark. Very impressive, because he got his ass whooped in this episode. And I don't know how you were able to then go into bed right just like that. It's like, that's pretty impressive.
Shout out to Mark. Chris, by the way, do you now see what I mean? That this is my favorite part of the episode, asking them questions and seeing what their answers are and not saying anything.
Yeah.
So we're not, but obviously we're not going to say anything else. All right. And then, the episode ends with kind of like a rapid fire of things of what's to come. The sequids, the octopus aliens, they're actually still around. So, could be plotting a comeback. And Rich, I know you were very happy about this because you were asking what happened to Battle Beast. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I know everybody wasn't happy about. I saw a couple of reviews. One in particular, I'm not going to mention, but they did complain about that. I can tell them to go to hell. I like Battle Beast. I still think Battle Beast needs a worthy opponent, and I will be holding out hope that happens in the future. But yes, glad to see him. They have to explain a little bit what happens with him. You also mentioned the other invasion with these other creatures, the octopus creatures. That should be interesting. And then of course we saw your boy Angstrom Levy.
Yep, he's there. So
that's very interesting.
It seems like he made a deal with them, like because we were wondering, like, what the hell did the technicians want? So the technicians, it seems like they fucked up their world, and Angstrom, obviously, he could go to any universe. So it seems like maybe that's the promise. I will give you a better universe to maybe fuck up. I don't know. But yeah, Angstrom obviously will be back.
I just have one question though.
Yeah.
How long until he turns on them? Because that could happen. The same way the other Invincibles turned on him. So I look forward to seeing where they're going with that.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Battle Beast. The first thing he says when he comes to more. He still wants to fight. He still wants. Listen, if your name is Battle Beast, you only want to do one thing: battle. Yeah, and then obviously, before the other thing that happened, Cecil, as always, Mark, he was like, "Yo, I don't trust this motherfucker. Let me see the body. Let me see Conquest's body." And he shows it to him. He's like, "Burn it." That didn't happen, obviously. Mr. Conquest is very much alive, kept underground, like locked in this like fucking like I don't even know what they explain it in the show. It's like 300 tons of shit. So just to keep him locked in. But unlike what Cecil typically does, which is like, I'm going to turn this guy into an ally. He's like, no, I want him to come to, I'm going to interrogate this guy. We want to find out everything. So he's not planning to use Conquest. He wants to get him for information. Dana, what do you think about that part?
There was a part where he said, even if this guy twitches, we're all dead.
Yeah.
So,
no, he said if he twitches, if he said the way they set up, and I will say this, if he twitches anything, they could destroy that entire facility because he's not playing. Yeah, he's not planning. Yeah.
When he said it, the camera pans down. Those are all like nukes.
Yeah, they're all nukes. Yeah.
Right. Like, so if he moves, that's it. They'll obliterate that underground facility. He's dead. He's in like 400 tons of tungsten steel with no leverage to move. Just his head is exposed, so Cecil could talk to him when he heals. That's it.
Yeah. So it's not like so they know like Cecil's not trying to use this guy. He's like I just wants information that will kill him. If he gets out of line. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah. No. But I don't trust that he's going to tell all of the information. We don't know what the actual techniques are to interrogate him, which will be interesting because the guy, he loves to fight and he loves pain. So what exactly are you going to do to get this information out is another thing. I just don't know what he's going to reveal. And to me, I know it's going to be for a purpose, but at that moment in that time, it feels like it's really purposeless. And they should have just burnt the body and called it a day. But if he does end up giving out information, which again, I don't know why he would, does this now mean that the Viltrumites can, he'd be dead either way. So then me even saying they'll turn against him, it's like he's half dead anyway. So I wasn't strongly excited about this scene as other people were. Because it was just like, what exactly are you going to get out of him? Because he doesn't seem like someone who even cares at this moment. So maybe he does get something out, and I just don't know. But it was like, okay.
Well, we know why he's stuck. He's stuck there and kept there. It's because someone's gonna release him.
Paul.
Exactly.
Well, that he's on top of the list.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I think.
So you just keep Himalayan?
No, I think Cecil is very short-sighted if he doesn't think that the Viltrumites are going to be looking for him and they're going to try to find him because he didn't come back from taking out Mark. So yes, what you said, Carlos, I agree 1,000%. Somebody will come for him, and that's it. We're back to square one, and Mark is going to have to be ready to fight him again.
Yeah, there you go. Again, Chris, you and I will stay out of this part. Spoilers. And then the very last scene of the show, very interesting. And again, like I keep telling you guys, there are no in the comics. There are no throwaway scenes, and so far, with some exceptions, there have been no throwaway scenes in this show. There was a character called Damon Darkblood that we met in season 1, who ended up in hell, and we never heard from him again. My man shows up, and he's talking to someone he refers to as Lord, even though this person is like this demon is smaller than him, weaker. He's like giving him honor, and he's like, "Hey, I know a surface dweller that can help you out, that can help you regain your kingdom or whatever. And we're gonna do this." By the way, Bruce Campbell was voicing that demon. Excellent job there. And I want to say this, because it's a good. This is my opinion. There's a good and bad thing in that same interview. They asked Robert Kirkman, "What's up with that scene? That was not in the comics, right?" And he said, in the comics, he always wanted. He said, in every superhero comic, there's always like an instance of the hero ending up in hell and fighting through hell to get out. He goes, he never had a chance to do that in the comics, so he wants to do that on the show, potentially set that up, and that's what this scene is all about. I have mixed feelings about that. Like, on the one hand, if they introduce a storyline that he wanted to do, that's kind of cool because yay, more content. But at the same time, and Dana, remember, you asked me this a long time ago, I think in the first season, you said, "Tony, will you be happy if they make big changes to the show?" And I said no. So I'm worried about that, because even though this is a story that Robert Kirkman wanted, it could open the door to other things that may not work. So I'm worried about that, because so far this show is like 90% accurate. It's not the 100%, but it's very accurate. And I don't want them to fuck this up. I don't want them to be like Marvel or DC where they just start throwing bullshit out there. So I just hope Robert Kirkman knows to temper things. Add stuff where it's good. Powerplex, that was good. He wasn't fleshed out like that in the comic book. That was very good. The Conquest monologue was very good. As long as you keep it on that realm, I'll be okay. But just be careful, because I'm also afraid of introducing a storyline that's not going to pay off later. Because remember, this was never in the original framework, and everything that happens in the show leads up to, the final thing. So, so that's, again, I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope my worries are just unfounded, but given how, properties tend to get changed willy-nilly, it makes me worried. But at the same time, this is Robert Kirkman introducing these changes. So we'll see. But yeah, what do you guys think of Damon Darkblood? Dane, I saw you kind of moving around, so I'll let you go first.
I think at moments and times the show is doing too much.
Uh-oh.
And that is my issue. I think that they're doing too much. They're keeping too many people alive. It should have just, gone on to the Lord. And so I'm kind of wondering, writing-wise, it's working, as you stated before. Everything is working, but when are you going to start, focusing more and fleshing everything out that we already focused about? When you start adding elements of demons and hell and, fighting your way through, and it's kind of giving me Constantine vibes, does that take away from the overall picture of the story? And at the same time, you end up losing characters and then bringing them back in, seasons or episodes later. And then I don't remember everything that happened from, say, season 1. So I'm looking at this scene like, who's this guy? What's going on? And he's calling him Lord, and it's like, okay, so is there a hierarchy in hell? And that's why he's calling him Lord. And even though this guy is puny and small, what kind of power and mastery does he have? But at the same time, I'm wondering, should I even be focused on that? Because here you go, Cecil is keeping Conquest alive. What happened to Mark's dad? He's still alive. When is he coming back? Oh no, Paul is going to betray everybody and kill the mom one day in her sleep. To me, it just seems that there can be too much going on at the same time, and I'm just wondering, are we losing focus? So I know you read the comics, but then again, Just because you have something that's based on a comic doesn't mean that it's staying based on a comic.
Yeah, and again, this is
Respect
adding
Robert
stuff that
Kirkman.
wasn't even there, you
Right.
know?
And he's adding stuff that it wasn't even there because, I always wanted to do this. That's great and all, but why are you putting in this now? Do a little side quest episode. Or you know how they did like the Eve special?
Yeah.
Maybe do a little special on one of the characters that you really wanted to focus on and never got a chance to do, but it's interfering with the overall story a little bit for me, and it's just becoming there's a lot of things going on, and I hope it works out.
Yeah. Chris, get in here, because what do you think of that scene? Again, that wasn't in the comics.
No, actually, I was confused because I was thinking, like, wait, that didn't happen. I don't remember this hell scene in there at all. And I know, like, the next thing is
Careful.
sequids. I'll
Yeah.
just say that's all I'm gonna say.
Sequence. Yeah.
That's the next thing. So that's there, right? That's the first. Okay, they're setting that up, and then you see like you said, Dark Blood, and he does the sigil, and he summons his master. I don't know the character. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, wait, did I forget something? I don't remember any of this. So I'm glad you said that. It's like I'm not crazy. The hell thing though, like I can understand maybe. And this might not be solely Robert Kirkman decision. This may be kind of creatives and suits inside Amazon saying, I don't think this following up with this next arc is enough, right? They might be like, okay, here's an opportunity to do something I had left on the cutting room floor that I wanted to do in the comic and I couldn't do it. So we'll up the stakes with this like hell stuff, because every hero goes through that, like they have to now battle the supernatural, because all of Mark's problems are coming from space. 90% of them are cosmic, stuff. And then the only other guys that have given him grief is Angstrom leaving and maybe Dr. Seismic, right? But that's it. Everything else is the Viltrumite problem or aliens. So he feels like they need something else. So he brings in that supernatural element, like, oh, this is something that'll throw him off his game, because you don't know what to expect when you deal with magic and demons and other dimensions. So I could see what he's trying to do. And I could see the concern that maybe it's like, okay, this next arc is not enough, especially what we just capped the season off with. So we need to keep the stakes high. I can see why he did it.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I think those are great thoughts by both Dana and Chris. I personally think this whole thing with the demon, I think this element could be introduced to play up with the whole thing about morality, because we had the discussion about will Mark just start killing people. That's probably why they're adding this in here, because he's probably going to go through something with whoever he faces that is going to really make him question whether or not he should live that type of lifestyle. But I can agree, if it doesn't work, it can throw everything off. And I will go ahead and make this comment before you go to Carlos. Well, let me ask this question, really. Would you guys have preferred that final scene had been maybe, I don't know, Nolan and Alan heading back to Earth? Since the last time we saw them, they were going to set up this plan to take out the Viltrumites, and there hasn't been any other updates. I guess they're obviously saving that for season 4, but would you guys have preferred a scene like that to end off, or were you okay with this particular scene?
I'll answer your question with another question.
Okay.
Are you confident that they are coming to Earth? Like, do you think they need to? Yeah, like basically, remember, they need to start setting things up. That doesn't mean they have to come to Earth. That means they could maybe go off in space and do other things to set up the battle against the Viltrumites.
That's a great question.
Yeah, but to your point, maybe you should rephrase it as, did you want to see Alan and Nolan in some capacity? And yes, I think a lot of people would have said yes. Again, I don't have a problem with because one of the things I love about the Invincible comic, because even when the Invincible comic was coming out, comics had stopped doing this specific thing where basically you would get one panel of some random shit that would pay off later. I like that the show is doing that. I don't feel it's too much like, I like the fact that you have to keep track of stuff because you know it's going to come back. And Rich, and I'm really glad you said this, I will be fine with that, with a random hell arc, as long as it teaches Mark something, like if it teaches something to Mark, that's perfectly fine. Because I don't mind a random episode where they're just in hell battling shit. That's going to be awesome, but as long as it feeds into the larger narrative, then I'm fine. But again, my larger concern is like, hey, we changed that. Why don't we change this? Why don't we change that? And then we're gonna get some fucking Game of Thrones bullshit. Like that doesn't happen, you know?
One quick thing I want to mention. I think Chris was going to say something.
Yeah.
Maybe this was perhaps teased a while ago because one of the episodes this season is called A Deal with the Devil. So I don't know if that, because that's when he was dealing with Cecil, the back and forth. So I don't know if that was a precursor to let you know, okay, at some point we're going to jump into this whole devil stuff. But that I just was going to make that comment. But no, continue.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. You're going to say something, then I'll shoot it over to Carlos.
Oh, well, I was just going to say it, but the hell thing is fitting because this is not spoiling anything. I'm not going to say anything about the future, but all through this, besides the learning experiences Mark has had, is that his life is torture.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
His entire existence, just being the son of Omni-Man and being related to the Viltrumites and what they intend to do, his life is already hell. So I think it's kind of fitting that maybe this is like extending him further, pushing his boundaries and his limits, because like these you have the potential to not just screw with him physically like Conquest did, right? Just beating the shit out of him, right? Pushing his physical limits. Hell, you could torture his mind and his soul in ways that you can't imagine, right? So that maybe that's why they're doing it. Like, you know, he's fighting a battle that is beyond just fists. You can't just fight and punch your way out of it.
Yeah, and the way Robert Kirkman will do it will probably be very interesting. It won't just be he's in hell punching demons. Like,
right?
Remember, this is hell. There's going to be some psychological stuff. So if they do that and it works for the character, that's fine. But again, my larger concern is not the hell arc. It's just, hey, let's go wild. Let's change everything. You know. Anyway, Carlos, what do you think of that little prelude to what's to come?
Yeah, I didn't know what it all meant when I was watching it, so I was like, oh, maybe the people who read the comic know, I guess, you know. So now I'm finding out that that's not the case. Hopefully it doesn't take the whole entire season, that plot point, because like you mentioned, it's cool if they add stuff, but it's not cool if they rewrite stuff like rewrite the whole like a whole arc. I feel like that just, I don't think that would lend good to the story, especially since it's already written. You know, add bits and pieces here and there, but hopefully, you know, this is a plot point that takes maybe 1 or 2 episodes. But if it takes half a season, it better be really, really good. If not, then it's gonna be pointless.
I agree. Yeah, because again, I don't mind them adding stuff. We had a whole episode with Powerplex. He was not that big of a character in the comics. He was a throwaway character, you know, basically. Like Invincible shows up because this guy's going crazy, and then he finds out, oh shit, he was mad at me. So I don't mind if they do like 1 episode in hell. Cool, perfect. These episodes are very long. You could get a lot done. But yeah, I don't want them to just start mucking around. But at the same time, one positive thing, it at least puts the comic book and the non-comic book viewers on the same page, because we don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't answer that, you know, so we'll see. Go ahead, Dana.
Then if that's the case, in terms of this can teach him a lesson and how you just can't go around punching demons because that just doesn't work, and he ends up using his intelligence, then I would like to amend my previous statement by saying this could actually be a good thing, because he needs both of that balance of the physical and the mental in order for whatever is coming that you're not going to explain what's coming, that is coming for him. So I do like that aspect. And so then if that's the case, I'm fine with them trickling in something that's new that can test him out. Just as you stated before, let's not live in it. Let's focus on the main storylines that's going on. Then that works.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. All right, so that's our wrap up of episode 8 of season 3. Great season overall. The show's just getting better and better. And as always, we're going to get to my favorite part of the show, asking you guys, what do you predict will happen in season 4 of Invincible? Again, Chris, you and I will step back and just enjoy the answers. Rich, you go first, bro. What do you think is going to happen in season 4, and what do you want to see?
Well, I think we're going to definitely get some more progression in the storyline with Nolan and Alan. I mean, obviously, they have a tall mission ahead of them. So we're going to see how they start to devise their plan going into next season. I think we're going to get some more teasers of Paul turning on Debbie, much to the delight of Carlos and Dana. Yeah, you're going to have some more questionable moments of that particular relationship. And of course, I do expect to see Battle Beasts once again get out on the field and be ready to look for a new opponent. Will he find his new opponent next season? I think that's maybe likely. I have no idea. Hopefully he does. Yeah, that's my prediction. As for Invincible, obviously, like you guys mentioned, they're gonna definitely do something with this devil storyline. So I look forward to seeing where they're gonna take that. But yeah, he's gonna be tested. Like I say, he got his ass whooped this entire season, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to see what happens to him next season. Is he going? Can it get worse than how it is now? Possibly, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. All right, Carlos, what do you want for season 3 and what do you expect? Season 4, what do you expect?
I want Alan the Alien and Omni-Man to make a comeback. Tony mentioned something interesting about, do they necessarily have to be coming back to Earth? To me, it seems inevitable, because he said when what's his name, Omni-Man said, "I miss my wife." So it's like, it seems like the end game is to get back to Earth eventually. We'll see how long it takes. I mean, I thought they'd be back by this season, but that wasn't the case. So hopefully next season they can make progress towards that step. I want to see what Cecil does with the Guardians. Also with shout out, and I don't know how to feel about this. We didn't talk about this during the episode.
The funeral. I forgot about my bet. Thank you for that. Okay, yeah, we could. You know what? Before we wrap up, let's talk about the funeral, because that was very interesting. You saw a robot there giving the eulogy, but in robot form, like his human form. He's like, "Bro, I can't hang, man." And obviously Eve couldn't hang. She went up there to give a speech, and she just broke down and left. And then we saw a little scene with Monster Girl. She's obviously very appreciative of. Now he's calling himself Rex. Robot is, which is kind of interesting, but she's still very appreciative of the fact that he stopped her aging, and then we had a little scene of Eve, and I like that because it made her more human. Like, she still had feelings for Rex, obviously, despite all the bullshit he did. She acknowledged that he had grown. That was good, because remember, I was saying this throughout the season. I was like, there's a lot of scenes of Rex that weren't in the comic, and I'm like, what the fuck is all this about? And then you saw the payoff. I'm like, okay, see, that's the type of stuff I like. If you add that type of stuff, that's great. So we saw that. And then Mark at the end, he was just thankful Eve was alive, because so many people had died and everything. But he had not lost her. And yeah, the funeral was good, because again, Carl's, like you mentioned, consequences. Some shit happened. You can't just move on to the next adventure. So what do you think of that whole funeral sequence, Carlos? And then, we'll go around the room.
I felt it was good. I liked that how everyone reacted to it, all the different emotions. But I do have one complaint. This is my biggest complaint of the whole episode.
Uh-oh.
And I'm pretty sure at least one of the panelists is going to agree with me. I didn't like the fact that he named himself Rex.
Uh-oh.
What gives him the right to put in the name of someone that just died?
Dana vehemently agrees.
Like, first of all,
he said it was to honor him, because remember, he cloned himself after him.
Yeah, but he's Rex is Rex. He can't replicate it. He gave his life for the better cause. I mean, you can just stay a robot and still honor him. That's to me. It just seemed like kind of off that he would name himself Rex. It's like, well, it's like we lost our Rex. It's like, oh, don't worry, I'll be your Rex now. I'm like, no, I don't want you to be my Rex. Rex was an asshole.
Yeah, Dana, go ahead, because you are like going crazy right now.
Can I just say thank you for that? Because it's extremely self-centered, it's disrespectful. We're at the funeral, but somehow you make it about yourself. I hated every aspect of that. And then, like, how are you supposed to react to that? Oh, that's so sweet. Why would that be sweet? That's disrespectful to Rex. And who said, y'all didn't even have that kind of bond where it's like we're besties and I'm going to just name my, not even like a middle name. I'm going to just go ahead. This is my full name now is Rex. I hated every aspect of it. I thought it was disrespectful. And I wish someone at that funeral would have spoken up about it. But they didn't because they're in their own little grief. And so for my prediction for the next season is someone convinces him that that was a stupid idea because it was stupid.
Yeah. What do you think of the part with Eve mourning Rex though?
I wish he died. I understand because it's a funeral, everyone's emotional, but at the same time, he is dead. So even with all of the bad qualities, you're still sad that he died, and you still love him, but you can love him in a different way that is obviously not romantic anymore. He is a person at the end of the day, and she did have that relationship with him, even though it was terrible. So I wasn't upset about that so much. And then the whole thing of how Mark reacted was like, I'm just happy you're alive. Him not entertaining that I thought was even great because it's like he can put you through everything, but okay, I'm just happy you're alive. And so he was just there really to support her and again just admire the fact that she was still alive and living and that she was able to do what she did to kind of regenerate herself back together again. So it was okay with me, but that Rex part, that they should have burned that with fire. That was terrible.
Hilarious. Right, Rich, what do you think of the funeral?
I thought the funeral was good. I agree with Dana and Carlos. I don't like this other person using the Rex name. I'm also going to take this quick moment to say once again another bad review from I'm not going to mention where. You guys know where. Made a comment because they were so surprised that Rex actually died. If you actually the way he took himself out, there's no way he could survive. So yeah. I don't understand that goes to show that individual does not pay attention to watching a show because the entire season they kept having the storyline of Rex and how he was trying to build a relationship, all this other stuff, become a better person. So yes, the character is dead. So yeah, it made sense. But no, paying tribute, reminding people, yes, he's gone, but I don't like the idea of someone else taking the Rex name. Just let the character die and rest in peace.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think of I'm calling it Funeral for a Friend?
Yeah. No, the funeral scene was great. I could see the issue with the robot thing. I really didn't think about it that way. Like he just wanted to honor him. I remember Robot, he's very emotionally awkward. He doesn't understand like human emotions and stuff. So to him, this is a tribute, right? It's not an insult. It's not, and he has no narcissism. He doesn't think about himself. So I didn't have a problem with it. And this whole scene was closure that you're not going to get from just Conquest himself, but from everything. This is a season closure, right?
Yeah.
This is Rex died in the Invincible War. He didn't die from Conquest or anything. And everything was building up to these last two episodes. So this is closure for all of it. It's also closure for multiple things because it's closure for Eve because she had a relationship with him, right? So there's all the emotions that she still had feelings for him, even though he was a jerk and he cheated on her and they broke up or whatever, that she still had emotions, plus Mark being there, right? Who she loves now. So it gets complicated for her, which is why she couldn't finish the speech. I don't know if that was articulated too well in their dialogue here, because I feel like in the comic it was a little longer and they probably wanted to cut it down, but that's what was happening. So I feel that was very good. It was closure for all of them for this season and then for Rex and everything that's happened. That's what it was for. And I think it was executed pretty well.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. So I like the funeral. I kind of disagree with most everybody here. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like he is honoring Rex by living his name and stuff. So that's kind of cool. One thing I don't remember from the comics, like, are Rex's powers inherent or were they given to him? Because I'm like, shouldn't he have Rex's powers too, technically? But I don't remember that, and we're not going to try to answer it here because maybe he does, and I don't know. But I'm like, if he's a clone, but Tony, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I understand inheriting the title. Like if somebody else wants to be Invincible after Invincible, I feel like that's perfectly fine. but he just got his first name. It's like he was a person.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I would be very hypocritical if I were to not agree with that standpoint, because I didn't like it when Marvel decided, oh, Thor, that's just a mantle. Captain America's just a mantle. No, the fucking person, you know? But like Chris said, Robot's fucking weird, dude. So it's like, this is his awkward way of honoring Rex. If anybody else would have done that, I'd be like, oh, whoa, bro, hold up. What are you doing? But he's this weird guy, you know, so I kind of get it. So I can't fault him too much. He's trying in his own weird, fucked up way. So I could forgive that. But, you know, generally speaking, that's not a title. It's a fucking name. But, you know, again, with the Thor, you know, bullshit. I'm not going to get into that. Obviously, you know, all the Captain America stuff, the Hulk stuff, fucking Marvel with that whole all new, all different bullshit. No, you can't just give out these fucking names, bro. Anyway, so from that standpoint, I agree with you guys, but Robot's a fucking weirdo. You know, he's basically like Elon Musk. Like, yeah, your feelings are kind of weird here, but I see what you're trying to do, you know? Yeah, so good scene. Reminded me of, you know, Funeral for a Friend from Superman. That was a nice little nod there, or probably just my own headcanon. But Chris, I didn't think about it. You're right. There's a wrap up to everything that's been happening so far, you know, especially for this season. It was good stuff. So yeah, Carlos, if you want to tell us about the funeral and then lead into your predictions, go right ahead.
Oh, I was the one that actually kicked it off, so
yeah,
I'm good.
All right, Dana, season 4 then, predictions and what do you want to see?
Season 4, Paul finally shows his true colors, and the mom has to kick him out the house and kill him because he does not deserve anything. With Mark, you know, there is that battle of him no longer holding back his punches, and maybe there, like I stated, consequences of those actions happening. Eve is still, I feel, continuing to keep secrets, and I'm not going to fault her, because now that she's like regenerated or a different version, that's another question. I know you can't answer this, but I'm wondering if she's now a different version of herself, because she died and then came back.
Okay,
so
I'm just
wondering.
I will answer this because I do answer questions when I don't want you guys to go down weird rabbit holes. No, it's still her.
Okay, so it's still her, but she still has to figure out her full powers. So that is going to be explored. And then I'm kind of wondering, would Cecil, how he may take advantage or help, or, you know, see how that ends up working as well. Then of course you have the dude Conquest, who's down there in the hole, and that, you know, I feel is going to lure in even more Viltrumite going with that. I honestly thought that Nolan and Alan would have been teased at the end of this episode, but they weren't. So my hope and plan is that that'll be the first episode for season 4. We get to know what exactly is going on with them and them coming back to Earth. And then when they come back to Earth, obviously, I miss my wife. There's consequences to that. And out of obviously not going to be lovey-dovey, and maybe Nolan ends up killing Paul. Yay! So that ends up being dealt with as well. And then on top of that, I think I covered mainly the other people. Oh, Oliver. Him being told that he's right. This is going to be an interesting dynamic between Mark and Oliver now, with both of them no longer holding back. And I'm wondering what kind of mentorship that's going to be, and how that leads to, you know, him, because Oliver, in terms of powers, he seems to be a little bit more balanced than Mark. Remember when he was getting bullied and everyone was like, oh, he's going to kill kids, but he didn't. And he knows when to hold back, and he knows when to go at full speed. So I'm kind of wondering if he's going to be the one that ends up teaching Mark what to do. And those kind of those roles end up reversing, where he's like, you know, he's the teacher and Mark is kind of the student. So overall, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. And then of course we have Battle Beast and Hellboy in the corner going at it, and see how they come back. And then those weird alien things with the brain.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff coming. Again, as I always say, stay tuned because there's a lot more things that are going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions to certain things and, you know, some of the predictions you made. So obviously stay tuned. I will say this though. Remember, we had the Viltrumite War, but that's not going to be the only war you will see. I'll just leave it at that. And again, I told you guys this before, and I'll just bring it up again. Remember, Mark has a book filled with how to defeat Viltrumites. And as you saw Conquest, he had a robot arm and he's all fucked up. It's like, what did that to him? I want you to just keep that in mind moving forward. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, epic episode, not only of the episode, but also the podcast. Good stuff. Again, based on that same interview that I read with Kirkman, he says that you could ask him, when is the show coming back? And he says he expects it to be around February because they're already well underway. And he says moving forward, they are going to try to bring the show around, back around the same time. He says Amazon may change a couple of things here or there, but generally speaking, probably going to be in the beginning of the year that we get new episodes. And we have 4 more years of this. So I'm looking forward to it. And at the end of season 4, this is something I brought this up for myself. I've been enjoying the fact that I'm in this spot where I read the books, but it's been almost 20 years. So some of this stuff is kind of new to me. So I'm like, okay, after season 4, that's the halfway point. Do I keep doing what I've been doing and just watch the episodes, or do I go back and read everything to catch up? I may do that, but after season 4, I want to at least get one more season of me semi being surprised. Again, just kind of cool things like with the whole Powerplex thing. That was not a thing in the comics. The Powerplex was some throwaway villain, So that was kind of cool. And then obviously the whole thing with Damon, we're going to see where that goes. But the show's still dope. As long as they stay on the course, we'll be all right. And unlike Game of Thrones, we know how this shit actually ends. So they're not going to go too crazy, hopefully, unless they kick Robert Kirkman off the fucking team and decide to bring in some, you know what? I'll stop before I go on. So some unqualified person that doesn't deserve to be there. I don't think that's going to happen. Robert Kirkman is very rich, All right. So that's going to do it for us. Shout out to everybody who's been hanging out with us the whole time. I absolutely love the show, love this podcast, and looking forward to seeing everybody next year. But as always, let's plug some stuff. Dana, what do you got coming up on the Koalition?
So what we have coming up, we have more Daredevil interviews and breakdowns. We're doing that. There's a bunch of Disney stuff as well as this coming up. We have an interview with Jonathan Majors, a 30-minute interview with Jonathan Majors. Wow. Also, we're doing the Power Raising Kanan that's on the main channel where we have a whole bunch of interviews with the entire cast. I have a 30-minute interview with London Brown, so that's amazing. So check that out on the main the main channel. As for this, we also have Dope Thief. We have a bunch of Disney stuff, like I said, that's coming up, and just a bunch of other things. So we got a bunch of things down the pipeline. But that Jonathan Majors one is interesting because he breaks down a lot of things that happened in his life.
So
he breaks down a lot of things. Yep.
So was he? Is he uncanceled now? Like, this is very interesting to me because I thought he was canceled.
Well, no one is really, really, really canceled. It's just sometimes you need to take that extended break away from the public eye.
Yeah, maybe he needed that. Yeah.
This is kind of more like his comeback tour. So it's wait and see. We don't know until how people react and respond. He has his next movie, The Magazine Dreams, which came out on Sundance several years ago. This was right before the incident where he was supposed to be this Oscar-nominated actor and everything was going great. And then he got cast for the Marvel movie. And of course, once that tape came out, everything was put on pause. So this is the movie now coming out. So it's to wait and see how people react to this, how they react to his interviews. So I cannot answer if he's canceled or uncanceled. This is more of that in-between moment.
Yeah.
To find out what happened.
Yeah, I will say I want to give you guys props for that because in my opinion, I was never against this guy. Everybody turned on him. I didn't. So I'm glad that you guys are giving him a chance to tell his story because other outlets would not do that. So shout out to the Koalition as always. That is very good, because in my opinion, I feel he was wronged. I saw some of those tapes like, yeah, he was not really at fault here. I'm blaming the woman. I'm being real, Anyway, Rich, what else is coming up on the Koalition?
So yeah, as Dana mentioned, stay tuned for the Daredevil shows that she has been recapping. Raising Kanan, we have We're going to be continuing to cover that show on the main channel. Stay tuned for that. The Walking Dead will be returning soon. Stay tuned for that. Reacher is also on the main channel, the show that Adam has been doing with Lawrence, so check that out. On the gaming side, I've been reviewing this game called Assassin's Creed Shadows. That review will be out next week, so stay tuned for that. And the very last comment that I do want to make, because this is the Invincible podcast, I got to make this line real quick, okay? I don't care how many voice actors there are. I can see the future. And Stephen Yeun is going to get an award for this show. He better get an award for this show. No doubt about it. That's all I want to say.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, listen, that episode with the Invincibles, that was great because he did so many different things, man. Great actor. And lastly, you could catch me, Rich, Chris, and Carlos over on Throwdown Show on YouTube and Twitch every Thursday and Sunday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our Monster Hunter streams, although I think this week might be the last one because I already went through like everything, but we'll be back with more content. And I'm going to also put a little asterisk on Carlos for a little bit because he's in Europe right now, so he may not be on every episode, but he'll always be there in spirit. Throwdown,
Indeed.
All right, good stuff. All right, guys. Again, thank you for joining us. I absolutely love this podcast. I look forward to it every week. Not only watching the show, but my favorite show, the only show I watch, but also hanging out with some of my favorite people on the planet. So it's good stuff. All right, so we will see you next season, and keep watching more Invincible. Rewatch all the episodes again. Read the comics. Enjoy this wonderful world of Invincible. Once again, I was Tony Polanco, and today I was joined by Dana Abercrombie.
Great day, everyone, and a great, rest of the year because we'll be back in 26.
26, that's right. Richard Bailey Jr.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Carlos Romero. Peace out.
Peace out.
There he is. And Mr. Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
All right, guys, you already know. We'll see you in 2026 later.